Uh, Morning, everybody. Welcome to our YPN Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about building teams. At some point, you're going to have so much business that you have to add people to your team. So John and I are going to interview Pam Hendricks. Pam is a mega team here in Kansas City with Keller Williams Realty Partners. So welcome, Pam. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you passionate about outside real estate?
Thanks, Kyle. John, thanks for having me here. Passionate about outside of real estate would be my family. You know, everything that I do revolves around my family. And that's what motivated me to get into real estate in the first place. And I also teach a class to 18 to 24-year-olds called QL, Quantum Leap for Young Adults. And it helps them find their mission, vision, values, and make a plan for their lives.
That's awesome. What you said your family got you started in real estate. How did you get started in real estate?
I used to be a registered nurse, and I was sitting on my parents' front porch one day. I couldn't work the night shift anymore because I wasn't sleeping during the day very well anymore. And my cousin was visiting from Louisiana, took a phone call, excused herself on the phone for like 20 minutes and closed her files and said congratulations and was so excited. And I said, what'd you just do? And she said, oh, honey, I just sold 16 houses to an investor in California. And I said, well, tell me more about that. So she was the one that actually encouraged me to get my real estate license. And I enrolled in the class the following week, got my license, quit nursing, and started in real estate in 2005. So I tell people I still get to take care of people. I just don't have to wear gloves, right? No body fluids in real estate, just tears of joy.
You haven't seen some of the houses I've been into.
Pardon me?
You haven't seen some of the houses I've been into with investors.
I'm going to leave that up to you, Kyle.
So tell us a little bit about your team, Pam.
So we have a team here locally, and then we have an expansion team as well in Madison, Wisconsin. On the team here in Kansas City, I'm the lead listing specialist. I take care of all the listings. My husband, Ken, works with buyers, takes care of our P&L, does the accounting and back end. And Holly Bremen also works with buyers on our team. We're currently looking for a showing assistant. We have an executive assistant that takes care of transaction coordinating and helps out with pop buys and all kinds of things like that. And then we have the marketing and tech person who sends out all of our monthly mailers and, well, bi-monthly, and takes care of tech and stuff on the back end for us.
Awesome. You mentioned the expansion.
Sorry, Pam, what kind of volume are you guys doing annually?
We're on pace to close $28 million this year. So I just looked this up actually before we got on this call. So we've closed 19.6. We have 4.4 pending, and we need 3.8 to reach goal for the year. So we're on pace to do that.
Is that between the expansion teams as well?
Yes, and she just got started. So she's brought about 2.5 million in volume to the team at this point, but she'll close between 7 and 8 next year.
Wow.
You mentioned the expansion team. What are those?
Good question. So within Keller Williams, we're Keller Williams International, and there's market centers all over the country. So here in Kansas City is our home or our hub. So we've got the administrative hub here. And then essentially we can transplant teams anywhere that we want to in the country. And it's easiest where there's a Keller Williams office, where they already have a market center in place. They've got the brick and mortar. That's all covered. We just need an agent there to work with clients and close transactions. So when they write the contract, they send it back to us, and we process it through the hub, and then essentially we get a referral fee. We take care of all of the marketing aspect of it, all of the expenses of the business, and they are our salesperson on the ground.
Nice. So you started with just yourself. How did you know when it was time to add a team member?
I was busy. I had what I called trash can leads. People would call in, and there were not enough hours in the day for me to help everybody. So those leads were going in the trash can, and I needed somebody to help me. I was just working a lot of hours and not being able to take care of everybody at the level that I expected to be able to take care of them. So I just, I let some leads go. So I hired a buyer's agent. That was my first hire. And it's interesting because when you get into real estate, right, I don't know, everybody thinks it's a little bit different than it is. And what happens is all of a sudden you own a business, right? You get in as an agent, but then you begin to develop your business and you own this business. So you're supposed to be able to think right brain, left brain, right? And most people don't do that. You've got creative people, you've got analytical people, and all of a sudden in the real estate industry, you have to be all things, right? You have to be tech, you have to be marketing, you have to be a people person, all of that. So what was really cool is when Holly joined me, she had that people person side down, right? But she didn't necessarily want to take care of the business and the numbers on the back end, which was great because it gave me time to build the business while she was out in the car with clients showing houses. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we got so busy and she was able to take the part that took so much time off my plate, and I was able to focus on building the business.
Were you doing your own paperwork at that time, or did you already have a transaction manager in place?
We had a transaction coordinator. Good question. So that was really the first piece that I added, was to get that paperwork off of my plate, because I realized if I didn't have admin, then I was admin, right? And I could pay somebody an hourly rate or per transaction and have them close those transactions for me. So that helped out too.
Awesome.
What was your biggest learning experience in building your team?
How long do we have?
Just one of them.
I would say that the biggest learning experience was probably learning how to communicate with, motivate, and inspire people, and getting good people on my team, because I tend to try to put a square peg in a round hole, and people will tell you who they are every time, and don't, pretend that you can create something that isn't really there. You can motivate, you can inspire, and you can educate. The biggest, most expensive learning experience was through people.
That's a good segue to a question that I had, which is about retention. So let's say you're building and you've got a rock star. What are your keys to success for retention?
Well, every October we go through goals, and it's really cluing into what's important to them and making sure that you are creating an environment that is big enough that they can reach their goals within your world, if that makes sense. So we always go back to that motivation, and we have every other week we have coaching calls to make sure that we're on track. Because if the people in my world are hitting their goals, then I automatically by default hit mine, right? So it's all about people. So check into them, make sure they're hitting their goals, support and help whatever way you need to.
What kind of accountability do you have to make sure that they are hitting their goals?
We do the 4 conversations, and then we have a compelling scoreboard. So we have a spreadsheet where we enter appointments, agreements, any buyer agency agreements or contracts that are written, and closings, and we go over those numbers. So the 4 conversations is how many appointments have you had, how many agreements do you have signed, how many contracts are written, and then what GCI do you have? So if we stay on top of that on a weekly basis, it's not an emotional conversation, it's a business conversation. And then after we talk about the business, we can talk about whatever they want, right? So if we're focusing on the business aspect of it, they're going to reach their goals and fulfill their obligations for their family. So, yeah.
So your husband works with you, and I believe your daughter is your agent in your expansion place. How do you balance that, being partners in business with them and partners in life with them?
Oh, that's a great question. So Ken came into my world full time. Well, actually he started part time, I think in like 2008, 2009, when I was really busy and I needed some extra help. And then we grew the business to a point, or I grew the business to a point where I needed extra help and had a plan for him to have some balance in his life, because he wasn't able to go to all the baseball games and show up at everything that life, family stuff that we wanted him to. So when he joined me full-time in December 2012, I went through the whole career visioning process with him because I wanted to make sure that we could work together. I didn't want to divorce him at the end of the day or hate him or kill him. And I needed to give him autonomy because he was coming into my world, right? So I didn't want to be the one that was telling him what to do and how to do it. We do that enough in our lives as it is. So we went through this whole career visioning, recruit, select process. And I AVA'd him. Somebody else validated the AVAs.
What's an AVA?
Well, it's now called the KPA. Essentially, it's a tool that assesses your behavioral style, shows what you're really good at, and then gives coaching points for the person that you're working with for communicating and inspiring and motivating you to reach your goals. Because we all think differently and we're all motivated differently. So for the first, I would say probably 3 or 4 months, he just kind of went out there and learned the things that, I was already doing. And then after that, we got him into production. And that was huge. And as far as balancing, we schedule appointments in the calendar for each other. So we tend to have more time together now than we did before. And we work from home a lot. So we have lunch together more often and breakfast and then we work the clients into our lives. So we have better balance now than we did when he was at his, 9 to 9:30 job. So.
Does he still work 9 to 9:30 every once in a while?
It depends. We just sold our personal home this week. And we were talking about the fact that we wouldn't be able to do that in the spring because we do get crazy busy in the spring. We're very busy now as well in October. But we do get a little crazy from, I would say probably, the phone starts ringing off the hook after January 1. And then mid-February until sometime in June or July. We do push the limits. And then I changed the voicemail on my phone to say that I'm in the office Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., evenings and weekends by appointment only. And then we do block time and stick to that. What I found with clients is that they will respect you more when you tell them that you need some family time. And I just pick the day, pick the time, or let them know what those boundaries and parameters are, and they stick with them. So, but we do negotiate late, and you got to do some of that stuff.
What do you find is your most beneficial type of marketing?
Oh, that's a really good question. So 74% of our business comes from our sphere. And what we're learning with Sarah being in Madison is that we tried all kinds of things. She started out with the whole ISA model, cold calling. She's called for sale by owners and expireds, and she wasn't getting the results that she was wanting. So we went back to marketing to our sphere. And the first 5 transactions that she closed in Madison, 4 of them came from our sphere, came from people in Kansas City that knew people in Madison. And so that was really eye-opening for me because the people that know, love, and trust us have people all over the country that need help, and they need somebody that they can trust. So I did have, we track everything that we do. So we do, as far as marketing, we send out something on the 1st, on the 15th. The 1st is a listing postcard, essentially, that is looking for buyers. The 15th is a buyer postcard that's looking for listings. And then we touch them throughout the year. So we actually, you've heard of a 33 touch. We actually do more of a 35 touch. And then we do pop buys quarterly, and then we'll do a client event. So in November, we'll do the pie event. Last year, we had 145 families come to our house to pick up pies, so that was kind of fun. And for the people that were out of town, it was a warm, fuzzy touch. We're getting ready to give away Yeti tumblers. So are you ready for a Yeti Hendrix Fall giveaway? And we're expecting a big impact on that. So every week for 5 weeks, we give away a tumbler. They have to post a picture, like our Facebook page, hashtag Falling for the Hendrix Group, and then we'll do a drawing weekly. So we'll do a video attached to that. And at the end of 6 weeks, we'll give away a Yeti cooler, and you get an entry every time you post a picture. So we did have a pop-by. The first pop-by that we ever did was a mug. It was a coffee mug, and it had our branding and our logo and everything on it. And I figured between the mug, the time that we put into it, paying admin, print materials, all of that stuff, we spent $1,650, and that returned 16 transactions from that one pop-by, which resulted in $103,000 in GCI. So, so those warm, that was a good one, right? Those warm, fuzzy touches are huge. And what we've learned is when we make it about us, we don't get as big a return. But when we make it about them, then we get returns like it's unbelievable.
Is Buffini your favorite system, or you use a hybrid of most of the coaches?
I use a hybrid. Yeah, I pick out the things that play to my heart, and I love the relationship building side of Buffini, and then the business building side of Keller Williams. I have a bounce coach that I coach with weekly, and so we stay on track with the schedule and P&L statements and all of that stuff.
You've mentioned numbers like 74% come from this. How do you track all those different numbers?
That would be where Ken comes in.
Well, I need a Ken.
What?
I need a Ken.
Yeah, everybody needs a Ken. Yes. People around the office say that all the time too. He's for hire. He's really expensive though.
Which CRM? Is that what you were asking? Which CRM are you checking?
No, we are actually between CRMs. Here's what I've learned over the years is that you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a big return. So we were doing Top Producer and spending just a stupid amount of money every month, having everybody having access, which they were not utilizing properly. And so we ended up dropping that and just dumping our database into UpAdvise, which is something like $6 a month. It's really, really cheap. So right now it's holding our database, and we've just started with SmartZip. So we'll import some of those contacts into that. But with the marketing pieces and stuff that we do, we just download a CSV file and update that and really just hold it there and track what our ROI is with each piece. So.
I still use Microsoft Excel myself.
Yeah.
This is easy enough, right?
That's right. As long as you're using something, that's the key.
So I'm a new agent on the Pam Hendricks team. What does my first 3 months look like?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. So we've had the first 100 days plan where we essentially establish, we talk about the vision, establish what a day is. They do a lot of shadowing. We do a lot of educating around contracts, around people, how to communicate with people, how to read different behavioral styles. But we're actually just switching. Keller Williams is starting this career visioning. Instead of the first 100 days, it's going to now be a 30, 60, 90. Because pretty much within the first 30 days, if they're going to be a good fit or not, right? So why do you wait 100 days? It doesn't serve them to keep them in a position that they're not going to be successful in, and it doesn't serve our business either, right? So it looks like a lot of shadowing. It looks like a lot of teaching. We do scripts and role play. I do one-on-one coaching, and they have to sell me a house. So we pretend that I'm a buyer and I don't know anything about the market or financing or anything like that. And they have to reach out, communicate, and sell me a house. So we teach the buyer consult. We do a buyer consult with every single buyer. That lasts for about an hour, and then they have to present a buyer consultation to me.
Are you a tough buyer?
What's that?
Are you a tough buyer?
I ask really good questions. So the goal is to set them up for success, right? So, we want them to see what that looks like and have a realistic expectation of the questions that are going to be asked. And every single transaction is different. You're never going to have all of the knowledge before you start. And so the key is to say, if you get asked a question that you don't know the answer to, you don't, try to budget and, get through it. You say, that's a really great question. Let me go find out the right information for you, and I'll get back to you by 6. And you call them by 5. So it's under promising, over delivering, and not making up something that you don't really know. Go research and figure it out.
Do you have a favorite script, like that you go, this is my favorite script for doing whatever?
Oh my gosh, that is a really great question, Kyle. Like, get specific on me. I have go-to scripts for lots of things, but I don't know that there's one.
First-time home buyer. How do you start the conversation with them?
If they're a sign call, first-time home buyer sign call?
Yeah.
Okay, so we always preach and teach to be conservative with your house. So if they're calling off of a sign, I have a script that we go through that's called LP Mama. So we're talking about, what they're looking for, if they're pre-approved, what kind of mortgage to get. We go through all of that stuff ahead of time. And then when we're sitting down with them, I always tell them that I want them to be comfortable in their home, and I never want them to buy more home than they can afford. So when you're talking to the lender, I want you to talk about budget and staying within the budget, because research shows that first-time home buyers spend 10% more on a house than they should, because they're not always thinking about those extra expenses that are going to come up. And it's my job to guide them and make sure that they love the house and they don't feel like they're financially tied to the house and they can't go live their lives. So we, and I call me, by the end of this, you're going to call me Aunt Pam, right? Because I'm really looking out for their financial best interest. And when they love the house, live in the house, save enough money to buy that bigger house, then they're going to call me. But the number one complaint that I hear when I sit down with sellers is, oh, we bought too big a house, or we spent too much money, or whatever, because life's going to happen. So fixed rate, stay conservative. It's your mortgage. That's the one thing you don't want to change. Other things in your life are going to change, and this is the one thing that you want to know is consistent.
You mentioned starting in 2008 and 2009. Being newer to the industry since then, I've heard that was a rough time. How did you get started then and be so successful?
Yeah, actually, Ken got his license in 2008 or 9. I got my license in 2005. And it was interesting because that was just coming off of the last really kind of high time. So I didn't know how not to work. There were agents that had been in the business a long time that just, said if you just stand in the street, real estate will hit you in the face. But I didn't know that. So I started by making my list of the 100 people that I knew, and I started communicating with them and letting them know that I was in the business, because, I'd see them on the soccer field or whatever, and they didn't really know, and they still saw me as a registered nurse. So I had to change their perception and show myself as an expert. So I researched and provided data and just started showing up. My first client came from an open house, because I'm pretty good if I can be belly to belly with somebody, right? But over the phone, that wasn't a really comfortable place for me to be. So funny story is I had like 2 or 3 open houses, and I'd gone to the office, and the team leader at the time said, how's it going? And I was like, well, I have these open houses, but nobody's signing in. Like, how do I get them to sign in and get their information? He goes, well, what are you doing? So, I'm making cookies, and I'm taking water, and I got balloons for the kids, and I was dressed professionally. I was scaring them. So they were walking into these houses, and I'm like, there. And so he's like, no, you're doing it all wrong. This is what you got to do. He said, still dress nice, whatever, don't kill them with kindness, but sit and read a book. And when they walk into the house, just look up from your book and greet them. And then have them look around the house and strategically place yourself so they have to come back by you before they leave, and simply ask them, what did you think? And so I did that. And, people came in, for security reasons, we need you to sign in, and give me your name, number, email, so we know who was in the house. And they did. I had like 9 people sign in that day because I didn't attack them. And then this one girl called me the next morning, and she said, she had walked in the door, and she said, I'm not working with an agent. I don't want an agent. I'm just here to look at the house. Okay. She'd been to 7 open houses, and she'd been attacked. And she called me the next morning, and she said, you're the only one that didn't attack me. So that's how I got started. I realized that open houses were my key, and that how would I want to be treated if I walked in the door and somebody attacked me? I would shut them down just like I do when I go shopping for anything, right? Do you need any help? No, thank you. I'm just looking. And just started approaching the people wherever they were, start reading body language, mirror and match what they're doing, and ask good questions and shut up and listen, because they'll tell you exactly what they need.
Awesome. So what does the Hendricks team look like in 3 years?
We are continuing to grow. So in 3 years, we'll have a listing specialist that is taking a lot of the listings off of my hand at that time. And we'll continue to grow. Right now, I'm actually interviewing an expansion partner in Houston. So I anticipate that he'll get the Houston branch going, and then they'll end up moving back to Kansas City, and he'll continue to grow there. We're looking to expand. I actually want to expand in Kansas City in the 4 quadrants, so that we've got an agent in each quadrant. And then we'll be expanding into Denver and Dallas as well. Why
Denver, Dallas, and Houston?
Because we know people there, because we have the who. So being part of Gary's expansion mastermind, I get the amazing privilege to mastermind with Gary Keller in a room with less than 100 people. Last time there were 65 people in the room, twice a year. And there's great markets there. So you're looking at market data, you're looking at what turnover is, schools, all of that stuff that people ask questions about when they're moving to town. And I have a who in each of those places. So that's my safety net, is that I know somebody there that would be a great expansion partner.
So we're going to start wrapping up here. We kind of asked people the same 4 questions. John, you got a question for her?
Yeah, actually, I like something on the screen. I like Kyle's, where do you see the real estate industry in the next 5 years? But specifically, the role of an agent. There's a fair amount of talk out there about discount models and tech models for brokerages. And so if you can speak to that a little bit, your own thoughts.
Yes. So I've lived through some of those discount brokerages, and they scared me early on, but they don't scare me now, because I realize that there has to be a human element. So I do think that the technology is definitely going to advance, and we all need to be on board, and we need to use a lot more video. We sell houses to people all over the world right now, through FaceTiming or video and download it. So I think that virtual tour is going to be a little bit more important. So we need to get our high quality pictures and our whatever Matterports or whatever you're going to use to do your visual tour. But there's also always going to have to be an agent element. So 5 years, advanced technology, humans are still important.
So if we dropped you in a new city where you didn't know anybody, had no COI, anything like that, what would you do first? How would you get started in real estate?
So that's a great question, because we've done that in Madison. And we tried all of the traditional avenues, and they didn't pan out as quickly as I wanted them to. So we did start buying analytics. And the predictive analytics essentially show you we're using a farm of 1,800, and it shows you the top 20% that are searching online and have the most opportunity to potentially move in the next 12 months. So, of course, everything that we do online is public. I mean, somebody's got that data, somebody's purchasing that data. And when people are searching for baby stuff, for college stuff, for whatever, refinancing, we're we essentially are working with a company that's providing those analytics, and we're focusing on that top 20%. So we just started that 2 months ago, but in Kansas City, I'm doing a test market as well, because I want to see if people recognize my face, if it makes a difference, or if, in Madison where they don't know us at all, what that return is going to be. So we've already gotten 3 leads off of it in Kansas City, and we've gotten a hit in Madison, so we'll see. So analytics, I pay for analytics.
Cool. What are you currently reading?
I am reading The Millionaire Real Estate Agent again for the 3rd, 4th time, I don't know, and Extreme Ownership. So it's a book that was written by Navy SEALs, and it's about managing and running a business and a team and taking extreme ownership and responsibility. So it's about how to lead and guide people. So.
Awesome. John, anything else?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. I really appreciate your time. Pam, you've been a wealth of information.
Yeah, thanks, Pam, for joining us today. So for YPN, don't forget about coming up. October 27th is our fundraiser for our RPAC, our investments in RPAC. It's going to be at Woodhouse Barbecue from 4:30 to 7:30. It's $20. You can buy your tickets online. And then we're going to be having our after party for the installation in December. So that's going to be at the levee after the installation and the awards down at the plaza. And then we'll head over to the levee and have a fun after party to celebrate Jeff Hill being our new KCRER president. So thanks again, Pam, for joining us, and we appreciate all your insights and help. And hopefully you guys all have a great day, and we'll see you next month.
All right. Thanks. Nice to meet you, Pam.
Thanks, John. Nice to meet you too.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time. So.